people leaving New York
Yes,
City.
a full 9% of people say that they will leave.
Wow, you're telling me 9% of apartments are about to become available? That would be the fastest a mayor has ever delivered on a campaign promise.
Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to take a look at whether or not people have fled New York City in droves. Back in 2025, when now elected Mayor Mamdani was running for election, there were so many media outlets threatening or fear-mongering and telling everyone, if Mamdani gets elected, everyone's gonna leave New York. All of the wealthiest will leave New York. Millions of people will flee New York if this happens. And now it's March 2026 and Mamdani has been mayor for a few months, and I'd like to see whether or not everyone's fled yet. Also, has it brought rent prices down? That would be cool. So we're gonna kick it off and just look at what everyone's predictions were in 2025 and now what the data shows us as of 2026 and what that all means, if anything. What conclusions we might be able to come to, if any, other than just like the media says nonsense to scare you. And here we are. So let's see if New York City is this hellhole, this communist hellscape we were warned of. But let's take a look at the warnings first from some of these media outlets. All right, let's get into it. So we're gonna start by taking a look at this New York Post article that was published November 3rd, 2025. I know the New York Post is controversial. I did look this up if anyone was curious about what their media bias leaning might be. They are owned by Rupert Murdoch and have pretty conservative political stances. But when I did a quick search, there were so many articles from the New York Post about how everyone was going to flee as soon as Mamdani became mayor. And as far as I can tell, the New York Post has not done any updates on this, but they had so many articles about how everyone was going to leave. So November 3rd, 2025, nearly 1 million New Yorkers are ready to flee New York City if Mamdani becomes mayor, possibly igniting the largest exodus in history. There was a Daily Mail poll that was conducted, I believe, in November of 2025. So in November 2025, this Daily Mail poll was released. I don't have the Daily Mail. I'm never going to pay for it. So sorry, Daily Mail. They shared this, that they said devastating impact of Mamdani's election will be far worse than first thought. Exclusive poll finds America's greatest city facing historic population wipeout. Cool. So the New York Post took the Daily Mail's poll and wrote that hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers are prepared to bolt from the Big Apple if socialist candidate Zohran Mamdani wins Tuesday's mayoral race, potentially setting the stage for the largest population flight in U.S. history, an alarming new poll warned early Monday. Around 765,000 people of the 8.4 million residents who call New York City home are preparing to leave, with about 9% of New Yorkers sharing that they would definitely leave the city if Mamdani is elected the 111th mayor, the Daily Mail reported, citing a survey conducted by JL Partners. If those residents were to leave, it would equal the population of Washington, D.C., Las Vegas, or Seattle fleeing the city. Is that correct? Is Las Vegas's population that small? Okay, Las Vegas's population is that. I didn't realize that Seattle was also that small, but okay. Another 25% of New Yorkers, about 2.12 million, said they would, quote, consider packing up and leaving. Among high earners, 7% of those making over $250,000 a year said they would definitely flee. My question is, where are they going? Where are you going that you're going to have the same quality of life for what New York City offers you? But okay, I mean, I don't think they did, but we'll find out. If anywhere near that number actually left, the economic impact would be seismic. Pollster James Johnson told the outlet, older New Yorkers, Staten Islanders, and white voters are the most likely to say they would pack up and go. Oh no, not Staten Island. Asked to sum up what Mamdani's New York would look like, respondents called it a, quote, disaster, hell, and cover your ears, kids, a sh-hole. Men were more likely than women to say that they'd leave, with 12% of men and 7% of women say they're sure to move, with roughly a quarter of each group considering it. I don't have the Daily Mail. I'm not going to pay for this. How did they run this poll? How many people were polled? What was the survey size? Who did you survey? Because even this, I'm like 12% and 7%. Like, this is so insignificant. It's insane. And then it's just like, how was the survey even conducted? But okay, fine. Continue. With roughly a quarter of each group considering it, voters aged 50 to 64 showed the strongest desire to flee, with 12% certain and 33% weighing a move, according to the poll. Okay, that's so stupid. Okay, by race. 13% of white New Yorkers and 11% of Asian residents said they would definitely leave. Staten Island voters led the stampede, with 21% saying they'd go and another 54% considering it. In Manhattan, 6% say they'd flee, 20% unsure. In Brooklyn, it's 8% and 18% unsure. Yeah, Staten Island. I'm so sorry if you're from Staten Island. Staten Island, no one cares if you flee. I'm so sorry to tell you, go. You can leave. I don't know why you live there in the first place, so go anywhere else. Yeah, I don't know why you live there either. Carolinas, Florida, and Tennessee have emerged as top escape destinations thanks to lower income taxes and property taxes. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna live in New York City and then choose to live in Staten Island, like, that's insane. You should move. You should move. I don't know why you live there. At least 1.9 million voters are expected to vote in the race, topping the 1.5 million who voted when Republican Michael Bloomberg defeated Mark Green in 2001, and believed to be the highest Big Apple turnout since nearly 2.5 million headed to the polls in 1969 to elect liberal John Lindsay. Mamdani won. I don't think people left, but this one I thought was also funny. Just gonna throw this in here. This other New York Post article that was honestly insane. November 2nd, 2025. Why is this playing? I'm going to pause that. 20 Reasons to Vote Against New York City Mayoral Frontrunner Zohran Mamdani, published November 2nd, 2025. Number 1, he hates the police. He called the NYPD racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. You know, the thing is, growing up as a person of color in the New York City area, yeah, stop and frisk was a thing when I was a kid there. So just being a brown person, any person of color living in New York City, and Mamdani's not that much older than me either. So there was a distinct period of time that, yeah, NYPD was probably the biggest thing a lot of people were afraid of. Not because anyone was doing anything wrong, but because they did racially profile people and stop and frisk people and would be violent towards people. For a lot of us who grew up in and around New York City in the early 2000s, this was the reality. In like a post 9/11 New York, NYPD was pretty racist, and they were given directive to essentially racially profile people. But okay, so number 1, he hates the police. Number 2, he really hates the police. The number of officers in the NYPD is at its lowest level in 20 years, below 34,000. Outgoing Mayor Eric Adams wanted to increase the ranks to 40,000 by 2028. Mamdani insists no additions, and it's non-committal about shrinking the agency. He claims he doesn't want to defund this rogue agency, as he had said in the past. But then he suggests that's exactly what he would do. It's not a question of headcount, it's a question of safety. Okay. Number 3, apparently, he hates the police with a splash of anti-Semitism. I don't even know if I can keep reading this. This is so bad. New York Post. His mental health plan is half-baked. Mamdani is right. We need to help the mentally ill living on our streets, but he doesn't have a realistic plan. Who are the people writing this? Oh, it just says post editorial board. So you can't even look up who these journalists are. There's no way to find out who they are that's writing this, because they're like, all these people living on our streets. Like, what are the chances that the people writing this don't even live in New York City? Promises a bus boondoggle. Mamdani wants free buses for everyone, which he says will cost $700 million annually, though the head of the MTA predicts that it will climb to $1 billion a year. Same thing has been tried and failed numerous times. That doesn't faze Mamdani. Kansas City ran out of money when it tried free buses. Olympia had to raise sales taxes to pay for it. Yeah, but none of those places have, like, sizable public transit systems. Like, what do you mean? New York City has a huge public transit system. They've also just implemented congestion pricing at the beginning of, I believe, 2025. So you can raise money, you can use the revenue towards other aspects of your transit system. These are not worth citing as an example here because they don't have comparable transit revenue to New York City, right? Like, what are we saying? Anyway, he's never met a failed idea he didn't like. Capitalism is bad, so let's have a city-run grocery store with controlled prices. Those stores wouldn't have to pay property taxes or rent since they'd be city-owned buildings. How many immigrant-owned bodegas would go out of business trying to compete against a store that gets such advantages? What are we talking about? He wants to globalize the intifada? I'm not even gonna entertain that. What are they talking about? I don't know what they're talking about. Okay. Then he claims he's the victim. He'll flood the streets with criminals. He'll put children at risk. I'm not even going to read that. He'll make the housing crisis worse, make schools worse. He'll drive us into deeper debt. He'll drive away the golden goose. New York City politicians are able to spend like drunken Democrats thanks to Wall Street. The top 1% of city taxpayers provided 48% of the city's personal income tax revenue. Rather than say thank you, Mamdani wants to raise their taxes even more. Government Hochul has said that she's against the tax hikes, but will she hold the line? No, she won't. She's pretty fair weather, sorry. He'll put federal assistance at risk. Mayor Mamdani, who spends his days bashing President Trump and pledging to oppose ICE, may fire up the left-wing loonies, but he's going to hurt the city with lost revenue for infrastructure projects, healthcare, and education. Why make the city the biggest target? Yeah, how did that work out? Remember how, should we take a look at how Trump looked at him? Oh yeah, he made a huge enemy out of Donald Trump. Isn't that a person who just hates his guts? Wow. What are they talking about? Okay, he'll put federal assistance at risk. He handled that pretty well. He seems to have made friends with our president somehow. He'll use New York as a launchpad for a state and national movement. He wants to create a socialist movement. He wants to see a socialist in the governor's mansion. Senator AOC, Governor Cynthia Nixon, get ready for your taxpayer matching funds to help make that happen. He has no experience. The 34-year-old was a rapper. He will treat New York as an experiment. Okay, I mean, did Eric Adams do a good job? I think it's okay to get someone in there that's like, let's try this a little different. Because I don't know if Adams or Cuomo are like who was doing a good job. Okay, kind of crazy. All right, and then not the New York Post here. ABC 7 News posted this November 3rd, 2025. It's close to 1 million people are preparing to leave New York City if Democratic Socialist candidate Zohran Mamdani becomes mayor. A poll that was conducted for the Daily Mail found that 9% of New York City residents would definitely leave the city if Mamdani wins. Yeah, so that's the least biased out of the results from this poll. Oh yes, the New York Post keeps referencing his rap career, and I don't know if people have listened to his rap music. It actually kind of bangs. I think if you guys haven't seen this, if people have not already watched this, you should watch it. So yeah, I've listened to this maybe an embarrassing amount of times. I love it. So they keep talking about his failed rap career. I think he did just fine. He's got another one. He's got another video where Lupita Nyong'o is in the music video. He did weirdly fine in his rap career, and now he's mayor. This is also, I just wanted to bring this clip up because this is the clip that kind of inspired me to even think about this video at all. Did a bunch of people flee New York City yet? And is rent cheaper yet?
New Yorkers are going to flee. They're going to flee New York because of Zohran Mamdani.
Full 9% of people say that they will leave.
Wow, you're telling me 9% of apartments are about to become available? Holy shit! That would be the fastest a mayor has ever delivered on a campaign promise. But seriously though, I don't want 1 million people to leave New York City. I want 2 million people to leave New York City.
It's officially 2026. Mamdani is mayor. Let's see. It was actually remarkably hard to see people follow up on this, which is so funny. Everyone made such a big stink. Oh, everyone's gonna flee New York if Mamdani wins, blah, blah, blah. And almost no one has reported on the actual aftermath of him being elected, but I did find this one Newsweek article that was like, does the data support that a bunch of people have fled or not? There's so many ads on everything. I guess that's not my fault, but here we go. So there's this Newsweek article as of February 23rd, 2026, our New York City Democrats leaving party after Mamdani win, what the data shows. I can't find too much reporting on the actual population decrease in New York. Census data doesn't become available that frequently. So Newsweek looked at voter registration data. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has not fueled an exodus among Democrats in the nation's largest city, according to voter registration data reviewed by Newsweek. Newsweek reached out to Mamdani's office for comment via email on Monday. Why it matters. Mamdani's election last year divided the Democratic Party. Progressives viewed his win as a major victory for the left, touting him as a candidate who would be best positioned to tackle affordability in a city where residents face a high cost of living. Critics, however, believed he would be bad for the party due to his viewpoints on issues like socialism and Israel. The new voter registration numbers reveal that his ascension has had little impact on voter registration in New York City. Mamdani critics have suggested having a Democratic socialist in such a prominent position would alienate moderate Democrats and independents and could even drive voters out of the city. However, it does not appear there are signs of registration shifts in the latest release. The largest voter registration numbers from February showed roughly 3.25 million registered active Democrats, down from 3.26 in November 2025. That's only a 0.22% decrease. For comparison, there was a more than 6% drop in registered Democrats during the same period after former Mayor Eric Adams was elected in November 2021. There were 3.36 million registered active Democrats in New York. That number was 3.15 million by February 2022. There are 2.92 million actively registered Democrats in November 2013 when former Mayor Bill de Blasio was elected, and 2.92 million in April 2014, marking an only 0.05% decrease. There may be other factors contributing to these shifts beyond the policies of the mayor. Voter registration tends to often fluctuate depending on the party in the White House, so GOP President Donald Trump's approval could also be impacting registration trends. But there have been no clear signs of a Democratic exodus in New York City. Critics have said Mamdani could pose challenges to Democrats running in competitive districts on Long Island and in the city's northern suburbs, as well as for statewide candidates like Hochul. I feel like I never get this right. Kathy Hochul? Kathy Hochul. Hi, editing me here going, let me actually look up how to pronounce this. So I have found this video on how to pronounce Kathy's name here. So let's see.
We are looking at how to pronounce this name, as well as how to say more interesting and often mispronounced names from US politics. Kathy Hochul. Kathy Hochul. Pretty straightforward once you know. Kathy Hochul. And now you know.
All right. Thank you, Julien Miquel. Excellent. Kathy Hochul, if he becomes unpopular. However, the latest Siena College survey of New York voters found that he's viewed positively by a plurality of New Yorkers. 48% of respondents said they view him favorably, compared to 32% who view him unfavorably. In New York City, 68% viewed him favorably, while 20% viewed him unfavorably. For comparison with other prominent New York Democrats, 49% of statewide respondents viewed Hochul favorably, while 40% viewed her unfavorably. 39% viewed Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer favorably, compared to 46% who viewed him unfavorably. 44% viewed Attorney General Letitia James favorably, while 30% viewed her unfavorably. The poll surveyed 802 registered voters from January 26th to 28th and had a margin of error of plus or minus 4.3 percentage points. That's the kind of information you want when you're going to do a survey. Please put that in. If you're going to say we polled blah, 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 9% of people are going to say that they're leaving, what was the survey? I want to know what the survey size was. What was your margin of error? Thank you, Newsweek, for actually giving us statistics, what people are saying. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani told CBS New York in December, "I think this would be a questionable job. There's no question about it. John Lindsay once said it's the second most difficult job in the United States, but I also think there have been many who have failed to even try to deliver for working class New Yorkers. They have left that discussion at the door, when in fact, what we need to do is make City Hall a place that is fighting for working people." President Donald Trump has said after meeting Mamdani in November, "We had discussions on the same things. I'm not going to discuss what they were, but I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he's going to surprise some conservative people, actually." This was so funny to me because I genuinely believe that when Trump met Mamdani, what happened in this discussion was Mamdani was like, "Oh yeah, I'm from Queens." And then Trump was like, "You're from Queens?" I'm from Queens, and that was probably it. Like, Trump knew that Mamdani was running for New York City mayor and knew that he was from there, but like, I think there's this thing that happens sometimes when you realize you're from the same place, that you have this immediate kinship towards someone. So like, Mamdani just walks in, he's like, yeah, I'm from Queens. And Trump was like, oh my God, we're the same. We're both from Queens. You get it. I genuinely think that's what they discussed. And that's what happened in that meeting.
Wow.
Oh my God. And we from the same place.
The Bronx?
The world.
All right now. I
Listen.
love you.
The other thing I wanted to show, yes, to the Daily Show's point, and voter registration shows very few people have even changed their voter registration, have people actually left, and we would see this mass exodus, we would see rent come down. I found this data from Rent Hop, and they show current versus historical New York City rents. New York rentals average $3,600 for a studio rental to nearly $9,000 for a 4-bedroom rental. The median price of all currently available listings is $4,625, and housing in March 2026, median rents have risen over the last year. Studio rental prices have increased by $185 or 5% year over year from $3,500 to $3,685. 1-bedroom rental prices have increased by $224, 5.22% year over year from $4,301 to $4,525. 2-bedroom rental prices have increased by $370, 6.69% year over year from $5,500 to $59. 3-bedroom rental prices, so these are probably your higher earners that everyone was afraid was going to leave the city, but it looks like the largest homes have seen the biggest impacts. So 3-bedroom rental prices have increased $656, 10% year over year from $6,339 to $6,995. 4-bedroom rental prices have increased by $698 or 8.2% year over year from $8,297 to $8,995. And this figure includes all active and rented listings throughout the month. Month to month, seasonality might have a bigger impact than overall trend price changes. Studio rents have gone up by about 1.81% this month. If you compare to rent 3 years ago relative to 2023, I don't know why that's the comparison point, but okay, 3 years ago. Studios have gone up 15.76%, with 4 bedrooms going up nearly 26%. So these are probably, these larger properties are going to be lived in by your higher earners. We're not seeing these rent prices drop, which means that they're not necessarily leaving the city. Or maybe they're leaving and then the landlords are just greedy and trying to see how much they can get for it. But from the rental data, at least, we're not seeing the rental prices drop, especially not in the higher rent brackets. So that's kind of interesting. And here we're seeing pretty steady trends of increases. It actually looks like we saw a dip, but it looks like a seasonal dip when you look back. So rental prices, I guess if you're ever going to move to New York City, it looks like the winter is the best time to do it. December seems to consistently have some of the lowest rents in the year. So that's one tip. But as far as we can tell from the data, people did not leave New York City. We were lied to. Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk it? But yeah, okay, I'm gonna call it there. I had some ideas of going even further into looking at active rentals right now, but I think I'm gonna save that for a future video. I think there's enough that we've covered here. And I think next week I do want to look at New York rentals and see what the housing market is looking like. What is the housing crisis like in New York City in 2026 will be an intriguing little exercise we can go into. I hope we all learned something, namely the New York Post is insane is my takeaway. It doesn't look like a lot of people have left New York. I know it's still early days, but I don't know. I just think, where are you going to go? Even if you are like a high income earner and you are amongst the wealthiest of New York City elites, where else are you going to go that can provide you what New York can provide you at that income level? Also, in some of those cases, are you even going to be able to earn the same income outside of New York City for whatever it is you do? Like, yeah, you could leave New York and move somewhere cheaper, but can you still get that job that is going to pay you as much as your New York job does, right? So questions abound. That's all I've got, I think, for today. I had fun. I hope you did too. Give it a like if you liked it. Follow for more. And share with your friends if you think they'd like it. And if you made it this far and you hated it, somehow you made it to the end and you hated it, share it with your enemies. Let them know. Or if your enemies are the people that thought everyone was going to flee after Mamdani moved, let them know that so far the data does not support that. But we're going to continue looking at the situation in housing in New York next week. You know, stay curious and stay safe out there, you know? There's not enough NYPD to keep the streets safe. So it's tough. Anyway, but you got those free buses though. So good on you. All right. Goodbye. That's it. I can't. Where's the button? Okay. My hair is in my face. BRB.